Hello once again, everyone, and welcome to the second round of the Chautauqua Park Open Front 9 coverage brought to you by Copiah Collision Center. Thank you to them for sponsoring the tournament. I'm going to jump right into hole 1, and once again I'd like to thank John Holmes for this drone footage that we have. Hole 1, same as round 1, no changes here. Par 3, roughly 230 or so feet, but it does play significantly downhill. You've got all these trees. The traditional gap that you'll probably see most players take will be this left gap with a pretty steep either a steep hyzer or a very overstable disc just down the gap, and get some good ground play towards the basket off of this really fast gravel path here. There is the turnover backhand line. You can try and get lucky through the trees or try and get something really understable through the gap. The same gap that you throw a forehand, but either way, just throw something pretty soft, get some good ground play, and you'll probably have a look at the birdie, either that or an easy par. So let's see how our players react. We've got Silas Shultz, Chad Sherbert, Logan Weiss, and Mason Mckay. I don't think they're going to be in that order, but we shall see. Yeah, we got Silas, we got Mason, we got Chad, and then we got Logan. Silas up first, throwing that overstable forehand, getting a pretty good skip towards the basket. Mason up now, just smoothing a nice forehand over there, gets a little bit of an inside gap, but we'll see where he lands. Chad to follow suit. Really low. Gets a great skip off the ground though, so he'll still have a look at the birdie. Logan lining up that backhand. Yeah, and that's the danger. You got all these little spindly trees. Still landed in a pretty decent spot. So here's Mason. Hit pretty early, so giving a great little bid to that. So even if you got a bad shot, you still have it up and down.
There was one day.
There we go. Yeah, Logan making his up and down. Chad from edge of circle 2. Oh, he was even closer than I thought. Hitting the band, very committed, just missed his line. And Silas to take a stroke on the whole card. Leading the tournament by 1 stroke at this point. Let's see if he can maintain that. And sneaking that one in. The scorecard may not have pictures, but we got video evidence here.
Like I tried to side on and hit like an early.
The rest of our card tapping in their pars. We move on to hole 2, at least as soon as Chad taps this in. Come on, Chad, why are you taking so long? Sheesh. Hole 2, par 3. I believe this is 280 feet from the pro pads. You've got another great forehand hole, or if you're lefty, you just cheat and throw a regular old backhand. But you want to hang it out a little bit wide and have it crash in towards the green. Either that or throw something straight with a little bit of finish just to the left of those trees over there. Or if you're feeling a bit risky or don't have a good forehand like myself, you'll just throw the turnover backhand and hope that it doesn't fade out into the OB. OB all the left side. You'll see some orange flags and a painted line. Silas Shultz up first, throwing a wide, high hyzer forehand, and he ended up in a good spot. Basically the same spot he landed round 1. Logan up there spotting for everybody. Mason correcting from round 1. Throwing this a much better line, he'll end up parked for his birdie. Chad feeling much more confident in his forehand round 2. As you can see, the rain has stopped, so the weather cleared up a lot, so he's feeling a lot more confident in that. And finally, Logan. Throwing this one pretty wide.
Push it.
And landed just on the edge of OB, and he is safe. Silas for his birdie. Mason for his. And it just gets easier and easier from here. At least for this particular card on this particular hole, because the holes definitely do not get easier from here on out.
Yeah, Garrett knows that. Straight up back. Yeah. I forget if I can't go to the basket. Is there arguing with you about that? Blake, but I was with y'all.
Chad holding up the line once again. Moving on to hole 3, par 3. I believe this is around 320 or so feet. Essentially a dead straight shot. You've got this tight gap here to hit. If you hit these early trees, you're basically hoping for a bogey at best. So make it through that gap, get up to this nice open spot, easy 3 from there. But hopefully our card will make it through these 2 pine trees that we're going through right now. Actually, I think that left one's an oak, but hopefully landing up in circle 1 for their birdie. That's the ideal landing spot. Silas up first. Hopefully correcting from round 1.
Oh yeah.
Definitely correcting from round 1. Absolutely parking it. Basically the same shot Mason threw round 1, so let's see what Mason does here. Some big shoes to fill from the first round.
Nice. Yeah.
And parking it as well. No worries there. Absolutely laced it. Chad kicking a little bit of a tree, still end up edge of circle 1 there. Then we got Logan. Great shots all around. Chad the furthest from the pin, only about 25 feet maybe. Definitely hard to see on video. And he's good for it. So I suspect we'll see another star frame here. Yeah, with Mason and Silas both parked with tap-ins.
Oh, he's got daggers too? Yeah, and just be aware.
You can't play hole 2 or hole 3, sorry, better than this. And we move on to hole 4. I believe they moved this pin position for round 2, so I think it's a par 3 now. Roughly 360 or so feet. You still have this immensely tight gap, low ceiling, high window, whatever you want to say. You've got this tunnel to go through, and you can't go low, you can't go high, can't go left, can't go right. Just got to go straight through. And the pin is going to be right around where the drone is currently flying through right now. So definitely a lot shorter, but they also lose a stroke here. So instead of being a par 4 and having a pretty easy upshot, I'd say, at least for these players, you'll have a par 3 with some pretty tight tolerances. So Silas up first.
Same as earlier. But it skips
Just
right
getting around that tree. Perfect
It's
shot.
all about playing the skip shot.
Mason up now. Getting a nasty kick, but actually ending up in a great spot for how early he hit at that tree. So he'll have a pretty easy up and down.
Whatever. I don't care.
Chad throwing really high, getting 2 bad kicks, and he ends up in jail. Now Logan knows what not to do. Let's see what he does here. Also hitting the same tree Mason did, still kicking out to a decent spot. Easy up and down from there.
Hopefully nobody's standing up there in case I do make it through.
Yeah, well, it's just jail here. And he hits early and kicks down to the path. So he'll have a look out, but it's still pretty far. Basically another drive here.
Hit a tree.
He'll still have some work to do to get to the basket from there. I believe this is Mason here. It could be Logan. I may be wrong. We'll see.
Yeah.
Pretty decent up there from whoever threw that. There's Silas for his up and down, giving it a nice run. And he'll have an easy 3 there. Chad for his bogey save. Missing right. Logan for par. All the chains in the world, and this is absolutely the worst possible result. Rolling down up to the bottom of the hill. So much work. Mason for his par save. And he's good for it. Logan from probably 60 or more feet. Giving it a good run. Really unfortunate result to just roll all the way down the hill. Silas tap it in his par. Chad pretty frustrated at this point to have the double bogey here. And Logan for his double bogey. And we move on to hole 5. Par 3, 350 feet or so. And I didn't mention this last round, but we do have this OB road to the left, and further to the right there is a walking path. Not the current walking path that we see here, but a different walking path that is OB, but it didn't come into play, so thankfully I didn't have to mention it. So, probably see most of our players try and hit this gap with a forehand, hold straight, and then start fading around here where the drone is flying through, and just have a nice little skip towards the basket. And then there is the right hand, or the right side hyzer, at least for right hand backhand players, to just go around the right side of the magnolia tree. We'll see what our players do here. Silas lining up that forehand, holding nice and straight.
Run.
This should be parked. Mason now throwing this a little too high, and he starts fading out pretty early, but he should have a look at the basket from where he landed. See if Chad can make the correction from round 1. A little bit of an overcorrection here with a little bit too much understability, but he should have an easy up and down there. I don't believe he went OB. Logan lining up the backhand. See if he goes turnover or hyzer. Oh, looks like he's lining up the turnover. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Oh, very unfortunate.
Is that a good branch?
Yeah, probably. It's probably going a little long.
They think it was a fortunate branch. I think it stopped him from getting close to the basket, but we'll see. Mason from, I don't know, 70, 80 feet? Good up there. He'll have an easy tap out. Or tap in, excuse me. Chad ended up in a pretty decent spot with the birdie. Really unfortunate. Just high right, and it kicked out of the basket. Not the kind of result you would like to see. Logan sailing this over the basket. A little bit too much commitment. And Silas absolutely parked. Fantastic shot.
Yep. Oh boy.
And that's exactly what you'd expect from this level of player. Logan good for his 3. And no doubt we'll see the 3 from Mason and Chad, unless Chad somehow whiffs this, which, you know, stranger things have happened. Oh, thank God the basket caught it. Okay. Whew. All right, moving on. Hole 6, par 3. I believe this is 280 feet. I could be wrong. I've only done this, you know, twice or once now, so, you know, I can't be expected to remember these things. So here we are, the easy am pad. I'm just kidding, we're not throwing from there. So, same shot as round 1. Most players probably going to be throwing the turnover backhand just to take out the right side. I don't believe there's any OB on this hole. I could be wrong. There is a creek, but if you land in the creek, you've got way worse things to worry about than being OB. You're in jail at that point. But turnover backhand, just go straight towards the basket. A little bit of check up. We'll see what they do. Really cranking this one over.
Oh.
Got a nasty kick. He'll still be have a look at the basket. Mason throwing really wide, getting a actually good kick off of that tree. I think if he didn't hit that tree, he would have been way, way left. Chad lacing this, and I think he's parked from wherever he landed. Logan opting for a standstill. And this should land in a pretty good spot as well. Here's Silas from edge of circle 1.
I didn't even know you were right here.
Kicking a tree, but he'll be parked for his 3. Mason for his birdie. And he's... Oh, man. I was going to say he was good for it. I totally forgot he missed that. That sucks. Logan for his 2. And he is good for it. Officially this time. The scorecard even recognizes that. Chad for his 2. Nice dead center shot. Mason tapping out his 3. And Silas tap out his 3. Moving on to hole 7. Hole 7, par 4, I believe, 450 or so feet. You have a pretty tight gap here with these trees. You want to go either to the left or the right of this leftmost tree here, and just pipe it straight down this gap, ideally, and land somewhere in this bowl would be a good shot. And then if you've got more distance than that, you would like to get closer to where the drone is now to have a look at the eagle on this hole. So pretty easy par 4, but too hard to be a par 3 in my opinion. So we'll see what our players do here. Chad up first.
Hit a leaf and fall.
Getting a pretty bad result from hitting those leaves. He should be an okay spot to get his 3, but Logan going to the left of that tree that I was talking about, and he'll end up at the bottom of the bowl, right where Chad ended up in round 1, I believe. This hole brought to you by the hickory tree that you see in front of you. And that was absolutely smoking out of his hand.
Oh, it is. Nice, huh? 100 feet, maybe? Yeah.
And he's got a look for the eagle. Mason now. Same mistake that he made in round 1, turning this over a little bit too much. But we'll see where he ends up. Should be at least at the bowl, I think. Here we see Chad got knocked down pretty early. Probably about 200 feet to the basket or so.
Yeah.
And turning this one over a bit too much. Probably just the wrong disc choice. Oh, Mason got knocked into the horrible rough that we've got over here.
Nice shot.
Good shot.
And he got fantastic up and down for how out of position he was. He'll have a pretty easy 3 there. And like I thought, Logan ended up right where Chad was round 1. So he should just have a pretty easy hyzer up to the basket. It is pretty uphill from this point, so hard to get the angle quite right. Throwing a spike hyzer angle here. And he'll have a pretty easy 3 there. Silas from circle 2, edge of circle 2 maybe, for eagle maybe. Ooh, suspense. And he's good for it. What a fantastic shot. They all agreed that was the best shot they'd ever seen on this hole. Chad, good for his 3. From outside the comfort zone. Logan, good for his 3. And can Mason give us a galaxy frame? Yes, he can. Moving on to hole 8. Hole 8, par 3. Once again, another pretty straight shot. And once again, another fairly narrow gap to hit. Excuse me. You've got these 2 little pencil trees here that are blocking most shots that go astray. So you've got a really narrow gap, and then it narrows even further with those pencil trees. But not a super fast green, so get probably a putter or a mid-range through this gap. And due to some camera troubles, I actually didn't record the first 2 shots, so unfortunately we won't get to see those.
Stand on the tee.
We will get to see Logan and Mason. As I recall, Silas went pretty long and Chad went long right.
Yeah, let's get down okay.
So here we see where Chad landed. Okay, not too long. Not bad. He'll have his 2. Okay, so nobody went long. I'm just totally wrong on every case. And they're both great for their 2s. 2 great putts. Mason, a little overcommitted. Unfortunately ruining the star frame that we were hoping to get. Logan, good for his 2. And Mason to tap out his unfortunate par. And we move on to hole 9. Hole 9, par 3. And it just gets narrower and narrower as we go. You've got this maybe 4 foot wide gap to hit, and it just stays 4 feet wide until you get around the middle, and then it goes to 10 feet wide, and then it narrows again to about 8 feet. And you've got this nasty, nasty hill that'll catch most discs if they're just a little bit short and take them down to the well of the creek. And then it just basket surrounded by trees, so Silas getting a not unfavorable kick.
I'll see what 100 hit that. Yeah, you hit it.
And Chad lacing this one, almost rolling down the hill with that tree kick, but absolutely beautiful shot.
Damn it. That might not be terrible.
And that was a pretty solid thwack and just sent him straight down for where he hit.
Oh my gosh.
And Mason absolutely lacing this one. Such a good shot. He's so good at these dead straight shots. Here we see Silas. I said it was a not unfavorable kick, but pretty much anything that doesn't kick you straight left or straight right deeper into the woods is not an unfavorable kick. So Silas, pretty decent up and down. We'll see what Logan does here. lining up the tomahawk. Kicking off that tree further down the hill.
They got like a 30.
He'll have a roughly 30 or so feet look at the par from here. Pretty uncomfortable position here on this hill. It's pretty steep and there's not great footing with all this pine straw. And he's good for the 3. Silas for his par save. And he's good for it too. Chad to start gaining some strokes. And Mason, good for his birdie. So Silas still in the commanding lead with 5 strokes over the next leading competitor. And we move on to hole A. Hole A, what? Why not 10? Because this is a 19-hole course. That's why. Hole A, 196 feet, I believe. Most of our players probably going to jump putt or do really, really, really soft throws. You've got this well right behind the basket. So if you go a little bit long or a little bit left, you now have a 8-foot or so uphill putt at the basket. Not even including whatever distance away you are. So Chad giving this a nice little soft jump putt. Mason doing the same thing he did round 1, unfortunately not getting quite as far as he did. Silas following in his brother's footsteps and parking it just like Thunder did in round 1. Logan just throwing a little too overstable here. That was a great line, it just started fading really early. Mason unfortunately not able to connect for the birdie like he did round 1. Still very committed with the height. Logan from really out of position here on this hill. It took him like 5 minutes to get his footing. And he's good for the 2 from such a horrible spot. It was like he was slipping and sliding. Silas tapping in his 2. Mason for his par save. Good for it, as you should expect from Mason. And Chad for his 2. Just 2 left side, high left, which is, it's really hard not to get a high shot on this hole, especially when you're that far down. But he'll tap in his 3. And that concludes the front 9, or in this case front 10. And I hope to catch you for the back 9. Thanks everyone.